Danny Cole was 19 years old when he accepted that he would never be special. He had known this truth for a long time, but standing in the training hall of the Terran Military Academy, watching his classmates move like gods among men, the truth felt heavier than ever. The Academy floated in orbit around Mars, a massive station of steel and glass where humanity trained its finest warriors. The war against the Kethvari Empire had been going on for 30 years. Humanity needed soldiers with psychic abilities, genetic enhancements, and lightning reflexes. Danny had none of these things. He watched as a girl named Lisa Chun lifted a training dummy with her mind and threw it across the room. Nearby, a boy named Marcus Webb moved so fast he appeared to blur. Their instructor, Sergeant Katie Morrison, nodded with approval at their displays of power. Then her eyes found Danny, and her expression changed to something like pity. "Cole," she said, "you're on cleaning duty tonight. Cargo Bay 7. A few students laughed. Danny just nodded and walked away. He was used to it by now. That evening, Danny made his way to the restricted cargo bay. It was a large, cold room filled with crates and containers. Most of them held seized alien technology and contraband captured during battles with the Kethvari. His job was simple: sweep the floors, check the seals on the containers, and report anything unusual. It was boring work, but Danny did not mind. He preferred the quiet. Here, no one looked at him with disappointment. Here, no one compared him to students who could bend reality with their thoughts. He was halfway through his work when he heard it. A sound so faint he almost missed it. Like a whisper made of static. Like someone crying very far away. Danny stopped and listened. The sound came again, and he followed it to a dark corner of the cargo bay. Behind a stack of metal crates, he found a small sphere made of black glass. The sphere had a crack running down its side, and something inside was glowing weakly. He knew he should report it. Protocol was clear about unknown objects. But something made him hesitate. The glow pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. Like something alive and afraid. Danny knelt down and carefully lifted the sphere. It was warm in his hands. Through the crack, he could see the source of the light. It was a creature, no bigger than his palm. It looked like a tiny star, but its light was dim and flickering. It was dying. He had read about beings like this in his studies. Void Sentinels, they were called. Ancient creatures of pure energy that had existed since before most civilizations were born. The story said they had destroyed entire worlds. They were considered the most dangerous entities in the known galaxy. Looking at the tiny, fading light in his hands, Danny found it hard to believe. He should have called for help. He should have reported the creature to his superiors. The military would want to study it or destroy it. Those were the only options for something this dangerous. But Danny looked at the creature, and all he saw was something small and hurt and alone. Something that had probably been poked and prodded and treated as a thing instead of a living being. "It's okay," he whispered, though he did not know if it could hear him. "I'm not going to hurt you." He made a decision that would change his life forever. He hid the sphere under his jacket and finished his cleaning duties. Then he walked back to his quarters, his heart beating fast with every step. His roommate, Ben Garcia, was already asleep when Danny arrived. Ben was a good friend, one of the few people at the academy who treated Danny like a human being instead of a failure. But Danny could not tell him about this. Not yet. Maybe not ever. He placed the cracked sphere on his desk and studied the creature inside. Its light had grown even weaker during the walk back. It was barely visible now, just a faint flicker in the darkness. Danny thought about what to do. The creature was made of energy. Maybe it needed energy to survive. He unplugged his personal tablet and stripped the power cable. Working carefully, he touched the exposed wire to the crack in the sphere. A small spark jumped, and the creature's glow brightened just a little. "That's it," Danny said softly. "Come on, you can do this." He spent the entire night feeding power to the creature. He drained his tablet, his lamp, and his emergency flashlight. By morning, he was exhausted, but the creature was still alive. Its light was stronger now, steady instead of flickering. For the first time, Danny felt like he had done something that mattered. Over the next few weeks, Danny fell into a secret routine. During the day, he attended classes and failed simulations and endured the looks of his classmates. At night, he returned to his quarters and cared for the creature he had started to call Nova. He talked to her while he worked, even though she never responded. He told her about his day, about his classes, about the war that seemed so far away from his small, ordinary life. He told her about his parents back on Earth, about his dream of making them proud, about how that dream felt more impossible every day. "I don't know why I'm telling you all this," he said one night. "It's not like you can understand me." But Nova pulsed gently in response, and Danny smiled. She was getting stronger. Her light was brighter now, and she had started to move inside the sphere, floating in slow circles like a curious child exploring a new room. Sometimes, when Danny spoke to her, she would drift closer to the crack, as if she was listening. One night, about 3 weeks after he had found her, something changed. Thought Danny was sitting at his desk, telling Nova about a particularly bad training session, when he felt something brush against his mind. It was like a warm touch, gentle and curious. He gasped and looked at the sphere. Nova was glowing brighter than ever, and Danny could feel her emotions as clearly as his own. Gratitude, curiosity, and something else. Something deeper that he could not quite name. She was thanking him, not with words, but with feelings. She was thanking him for saving her life. Danny sat in the darkness of his room, tears running down his face, and realized that for the first time in his life, someone needed him. Not despite his weakness, but because of his kindness. And in that moment, everything began to change. The bond between Danny and Nova grew stronger with each passing day. What had started as faint impressions became clearer, like a radio signal slowly tuning into the right frequency. Nova could not speak in words, but she could share feelings, images, and memories. And through these, Danny began to understand who she really was. She was old. Older than human civilization. Older than most of the stars Danny could see from his window. She had been born in the heart of a dying galaxy, created by forces that no longer existed. For millions of years, she had drifted through the universe, watching civilizations rise and fall like waves on an endless ocean. She showed Danny her memories. He saw worlds made of crystal and light. He saw beings of pure thought having conversations that lasted centuries. He saw the beauty of the universe in ways that no human had ever witnessed. But she also showed him the darker memories. The fear that other species felt when they saw her kind. The weapons they built to destroy the Void Sentinels. The long, slow extinction of her people, hunted across the galaxy until she was the last one left. She had been captured by the Kethvari 200 years ago. They had kept her in that sphere, draining her energy to power their weapons. She had been alone and in pain for so long that she had forgotten what kindness felt like. Then Danny had found her. "I'm sorry," Danny whispered one night, overwhelmed by the weight of her suffering. "I'm so sorry that happened to you." Nova pulsed warmly in response. She did not blame him. She did not blame anyone. She was simply grateful to be alive, to be free, to have found someone who saw her as more than a weapon or a threat, and she wanted to give him something in return. One morning, Danny woke up feeling different. His senses were sharper. Colors seemed brighter. Sounds were clearer. When he walked to his first class, he noticed things he had never noticed before. The slight limp in his instructor's walk. The nervous twitch in a classmate's eye. The faint hum of the station's power systems behind the walls dotting combat training. Something even stranger happened. Sergeant Morrison had paired Danny with Marcus Webb, the fastest student in the class. It was meant to be a demonstration of what real speed looked like. Everyone expected Danny to lose in seconds, but when Marcus moved, Danny saw it coming. Not because Marcus was slow, but because Danny's mind had expanded. He could feel the intention behind the movement, the shift in weight, the tensing of muscles. He dodged the first strike, then the second, then the third. Marcus stumbled back, confusion on his face. The other students fell silent. "Lucky," Marcus muttered, and came at Danny again. This time, Danny did not just dodge. He moved without thinking, his body flowing around Marcus's attacks like water around stone. When it was over, Marcus was on the ground, and Danny was standing over him, breathing hard but unharmed. The room was completely silent. Sergeant Morrison stared at Danny with an expression he had never seen before. Not pity, not disappointment. Something like curiosity, mixed with a hint of suspicion. "Interesting," she said quietly. "Very interesting." After class, she pulled Danny aside. "What happened in there, Cole?" "I don't know," Danny lied. "I just reacted." She studied him for a long moment. "People don't change overnight." "Not like that." "If there's something going on, something you're not telling me." "There's nothing," Danny said. His heart pounding thought she did not look convinced. But she let him go. That night, Danny confronted Nova. "What did you do to me?" Nova sent him a complex wave of emotions and images. It took him a while to understand, but eventually the meaning became clear. She had formed a guardian bond with him. It was something her species had done in ancient times, linking themselves to beings they chose to protect. The bond gave the protected one a fraction of the Sentinel's awareness, a connection to the vast cosmic perception that her kind possessed. But there was more to it than that. The bond was not just a gift. It was a sacred covenant, something her people had not formed with another being in over 10,000 years. She had chosen Danny not because he was strong or special, but because he had shown her kindness without expecting anything in return in all her millions of years of existence. That had never happened before. "I don't deserve this," Danny said, overwhelmed. Nova disagreed. She sent him images of all the times she had been captured, studied, and tortured. Every being who had encountered her had wanted something from her. Power, knowledge, weapons. They saw her as a resource to be exploited. Danny had seen her as a life to be saved that made him more worthy than any warrior, any king, any genius she had ever met. The weeks that followed were the strangest of Danny's life. He continued to improve in his training, his scores climbing from the bottom of the class toward the middle. He was careful not to improve too fast, afraid of drawing too much attention, but he could not hide everything. His reflexes were sharper. His awareness was broader. He started to sense things before they happened, warnings that flashed through his mind like distant lightning. Ben noticed the changes first. "What's going on with you, man?" his roommate asked one night. "You're different lately." "Better. Just been practicing more," Danny said. Ben did not look convinced, but he did not push. That was the thing about Ben. He trusted Danny, even when Danny could not tell him the truth. Sergeant Morrison watched him too, her eyes following him in class and in the halls. She was suspicious, Danny could tell, but she did not report him. Instead, she started giving him extra training sessions, pushing him harder than before. "You have potential," she told him one day. "I don't know where it came from, but I can see it now. Don't waste it." Danny nodded, hiding the fear in his heart. He was walking a dangerous line. If anyone discovered Nova, they would take her away. They would turn her into a weapon or destroy her. He could not let that happen. She had trusted him with her life, and he would die before he betrayed that trust. But the universe had other plans. Because somewhere in the dark between stars, the HFY had noticed that their captive Void Sentinel was missing, and they were already searching for her. The storm was coming, and Danny had no idea how to stop it. The training mission was supposed to be simple. Fly to the asteroid belt, scan some old mining stations for HFY activity, and return home. A basic exercise for second-year students. The kind of mission Danny had done a dozen times before. But nothing about this day would be simple. Danny's squad consisted of 8 students and 2 instructors. Commander Eric Lawson led the group, a veteran soldier with gray at his temples and scars on his hands. Sergeant Morrison had come along as well, her sharp eyes watching everyone as they prepared for departure. Danny felt nervous as he boarded the shuttle. Nova was with him, hidden and small, resting near his heart like a warm ember. She had been quiet all morning, and he could feel something like worry coming through their bond. "What is it?" He whispered to her, pretending to check his equipment. She sent him an image of darkness, of cold eyes watching from far away, of danger approaching from an unexpected direction. Danny tried to warn Commander Lawson, but he could not explain how he knew. "Sir, I have a bad feeling about this mission." Lawson raised an eyebrow. "A bad feeling?" "Cole, we're scanning empty asteroids. There's nothing to worry about." Danny wanted to argue, but he had no proof. He took his seat and stayed silent, his anxiety growing with every passing minute. The flight to the asteroid belt took 3 hours. The students chatted and joked to pass the time. Marcus Webb was there, still angry about losing to Danny in training. Lisa Chun sat in the corner, practicing her telekinesis by floating small objects in circles. Danny watched them all and felt the weight of his secret pressing down on him. These were his classmates. Some of them had been cruel to him, but others had been kind. If something happened, they would all be in danger. They reached the asteroid belt without incident. Commander Lawson ordered the shuttle to approach the first mining station, a large structure carved into a rock the size of a small city. "Standard sweep," Lawson announced. "Teams of 2. Report anything unusual." Danny was paired with Ben, which was a small relief. They entered the station through an old airlock, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. "This place gives me the creeps," Ben muttered. Danny agreed. The station was old and abandoned, but something felt wrong. The air was too cold. The shadows were too deep. And somewhere in the distance, he could hear a faint sound that did not belong. "Ben," Danny said quietly. "We need to go back." "What?" "We just got here." Before Danny could explain, his world exploded. The attack came from everywhere at once. HFY warriors poured out of the darkness, their scaled bodies moving with deadly grace. They were not supposed to be here, this deep in Terran space, behind defensive lines that had held for years. But they were here, and they had been waiting. It was a trap. Danny grabbed Ben and ran. Behind them, he could hear screaming, gunfire, the terrible sounds of battle. His earpiece was filled with panicked voices calling for help. "Fall back to the shuttle," Commander Lawson shouted. "Everyone fall back now." But the shuttle was already burning. Danny saw it through a window, a ball of fire spinning away into the void. Their escape was gone. The survivors gathered in a storage room near the center of the station. 8 had become 5. Lisa Chun was bleeding from a wound on her arm. Marcus Webb was pale and shaking. A girl named Rachel was crying silently in the corner. Commander Lawson and Sergeant Morrison stood guard at the door, their weapons ready. "We're outnumbered," Lawson said grimly. "Outgunned. Our distress signal was jammed before we could send it." He looked at the students, his face tired and sad. "I'm sorry. I don't see a way out of this." Nova stirred against Danny's heart. He could feel her fear and her fury. She wanted to help. She could help. But revealing herself would change everything. Danny thought about what that would mean. The military would take her away. The HFY would hunt her with even greater force. His life, such as it was, would be over. Then he looked at his classmates. At Ben, who had always been kind to him. At Morrison, who had believed in him when no one else did. At Lawson, who had led them into this trap, but was still fighting to protect them. There was no choice at all. "I can help," Danny said, stepping forward. "I have something that can stop them." Lawson stared at him. "Cole, what are you talking about?" Before Danny could answer, the door exploded inward. HFY warriors flooded the room, their blades gleaming in the dim light. Morrison fired her weapon, taking down 2 of them, but more kept coming. One of them reached Danny. Its blade pierced his shoulder, a burst of white-hot pain that drove him to his knees. The creature raised its weapon for the killing blow, and Nova decided that she had. Seen enough dots, she emerged from Danny's chest like a star being born. One moment she was a tiny ember. The next, she was expanding, growing, filling the room with light so bright that everyone had to look away. When the light faded, Nova floated in the center of the storage room. She was no longer small. She was vast, her form stretching through the walls and ceiling, extending hundreds of meters in every direction. She looked like a goddess made of starfire, with eyes like collapsing galaxies and wings that curved through dimensions that humans could not see. The HFY stopped. For the first time in Danny's life, he saw fear on their alien faces. Real, deep, primal fear. One of them spoke, its translator turning the words into broken English. "Void Sentinel, impossible. You died. Your kind all died." Nova turned her terrible gaze toward the speaker. When she answered, her voice was the sound of comets falling, of stars exploding, of the universe itself speaking with cold fury. "One of us remains, and you have harmed my chosen ward." What happened next was over in seconds. Nova moved through the station like a storm, and where she passed, HFY simply ceased to exist. She did not kill them in any way that made sense. She unmade them, scattering their atoms across the void, erasing them from existence with the casual ease of a giant brushing away insects. When it was done, the station was quiet. The surviving humans stared at Nova with expressions of wonder and terror. Danny, bleeding and exhausted, looked up at the cosmic entity that had chosen him. "Thank you," he whispered. Nova shrank back down, returning to her small form, and settled against his heart once more. Through their bond, Danny felt her response. Always behind him, Commander Lawson found his voice. "Cole," he said slowly. "What the hell was that?" Danny closed his eyes. The secret was out. Nothing would ever be the same again. "It's a long story, sir," he said, "and I think you should probably sit down for it." News traveled fast in the age of faster-than-light communication. Within hours of the rescue shuttle bringing Danny and the survivors back to the academy, the entire galaxy knew what had happened. A void sentinel had revealed itself. One of the ancient destroyers, the cosmic nightmares that civilizations told their children about to frighten them into obedience, was alive. And it had bonded with a human, a 19-year-old student from Earth, who had failed almost every test the military had given him. Danny spent the first 3 days in a medical bay, recovering from his shoulder wound, while armed guards stood outside his door. They were not there to protect him. They were there to keep him contained. Nova stayed close, a warm presence against his heart. She was calm, almost peaceful, despite everything that had happened. Through their bond, Danny understood why. She had spent 200 years being hunted and hidden. Now, she had shown herself to the universe. Whatever happened next, she was tired of being afraid. Danny wished he could feel the same way. On the 4th day, the visitors started coming. Admiral Grace Thornton arrived first, a tall woman with silver hair and eyes like chips of ice. She was the highest-ranking officer in the Terran fleet, the person responsible for defending humanity against the Kethvari. She sat beside Danny's bed and studied him the way a scientist might study a dangerous specimen. "Do you understand what you have?" she asked. "What that creature represents?" "Her name is Nova," Danny said quietly. "And she's not a creature. She's a person." The Admiral's expression did not change. "That thing destroyed 37 Kethvari warriors without effort. Our best weapons, our strongest soldiers, cannot do what it did in seconds. Do you have any idea what we could accomplish with that kind of power? She's not a weapon. Everything is a weapon if used correctly." Thornton leaned forward. "The Kethvari have been pushing us back for 3 decades. We've lost billions of lives, hundreds of worlds. With the Sentinel on our side, we could end this war in months." Danny felt Nova stir, her emotions flowing through the bond. She was not angry. She had expected this. Every species in the galaxy had looked at her kind and seen the same thing: power to be used, controlled, and exploited. "Nova doesn't serve humanity," Danny said. "She doesn't serve anyone. She protects me. That's all. Then, perhaps we need to give her a reason to protect more than just you." The threat was subtle, but Danny heard it clearly. If he did not cooperate, they would find ways to make him cooperate. His family on Earth, his friends at the Academy, everyone he cared about could become leverage. Before Danny could respond, Nova spoke. Not through feelings this time, but through his mouth, using his voice to carry her words. "Admiral Thornton, I have watched your species for a short time. You are young and afraid, and you make the same mistakes that every young species makes. You see power and wish to control it. You see the unknown and wish to destroy it." Thornton's face went pale. She had not expected the Sentinel to speak. "But I have seen something else in humanity," Nova continued. "I have seen kindness in the darkest moments. I have seen mercy when cruelty would have been easier. I have seen a boy risk everything to save a creature he had every reason to fear." Nova's presence filled the room. Not physically, but in a way that made the air feel heavy and old. "I do not serve your government. I do not serve your military. I serve the one who saved me when no one else would. And I will protect those he chooses to protect. But if anyone attempts to harm or coerce my ward, I will unmake them as I unmade the Kethvari. This is not a threat. It is a simple statement of fact." The Admiral sat in silence for a long moment. Then she stood and left without another word. After that, the nature of Danny's captivity changed. The guards remained, but they kept their distance. Doctors came to check on him, but they were nervous and careful. Politicians sent messages asking for meetings, but Danny ignored them all. The only visitors he welcomed were the ones who had been with him on that station. Commander Lawson came first. The old soldier sat beside Danny's bed and said nothing for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "I've been in 100 battles. I've seen things that would break most people. But I've never seen anything like what happened in that station." He looked at Danny with an expression that mixed respect with something like wonder. "You could have kept her hidden. You could have let us die and saved yourself. Why didn't you?" "Because you're my people," Danny said simply. "And Nova taught me that protecting people isn't about power. It's about choice. I chose to protect you, and she helped me do it." Lawson nodded slowly. "Then I choose to stand with you. Whatever comes next, you won't face it alone." Sergeant Morrison came next. And then Ben, and then, surprisingly, Marcus Webb. The boy who had bullied Danny for years stood awkwardly in the doorway, unable to meet his eyes. "I was wrong about you," Marcus said quietly. "I thought you were weak. I thought you were nothing. But you're braver than any of us. And I'm sorry." Danny accepted the apology. It seemed like a small thing now. Compared to everything else thought but outside the Academy, the universe was not so forgiving. The Kethvari Empire had received word of what happened. For them, the news was not just shocking. It was terrifying. The Void Sentinels had been extinct for 10,000 years. The Kethvari had helped make them extinct, hunting them across the galaxy until none remained. Or so they had thought. Emperor Jalvar, the ancient ruler who had led the Kethvari for over 3 centuries, called an emergency council. His advisors recommended immediate action. If the Sentinel had truly bonded with a human, then humanity had to be destroyed before that bond could be used against them. Within a week, the largest armada in Kethvari history was assembled. 3,000 warships, carrying millions of soldiers, began their journey toward Earth. Their orders were simple: burn the human homeworld to ash and kill the Void Sentinel's host. With the boy dead, the bond would break, and the Sentinel would either fade away or become vulnerable enough to capture Dot. It was a desperate plan, born of ancient fear. But Jalvar was old enough to remember the last war against the Void Sentinels. He remembered the planets they had destroyed, the stars they had darkened, the civilizations they had erased from existence. He would not let that happen again, even if it meant destroying an entire species to prevent it. On the Academy station, Danny felt Nova's awareness reach out into the void. She sensed the approaching fleet, felt the weight of its terrible purpose. "They're coming," Danny said to his friends. "All of them. They're coming to kill me." Lawson's face was grim. "Then we'll fight." "You can't win this," Danny said. "There are too many of them." "Maybe not," Morrison replied. "But we can try." That's what humans do, Cole. We try, even when the odds are against us. Danny looked at the people around him. People who had once ignored him, mocked him, dismissed him as nothing. Now they were ready to die for him. He thought about what Nova had taught him, about kindness and choice and the power that came from protecting others. "No," he said finally, "we're not going to fight. We're going to do something else. Something better." "What do you mean?" Ben asked. Danny closed his eyes and felt Nova's ancient presence flowing through him. "I mean, we're going to end this war. Not with destruction, but with something the Kethvari have never encountered before. Something they have no defense against." "What's that?" Danny opened his eyes. "Mercy." The Kethvari Armada arrived at the edge of the solar system on a cold Tuesday morning. 3,000 warships hung in the darkness beyond Neptune, their weapons charged and ready. Humanity's defensive fleet, gathered hastily from every corner of Terran space, was outnumbered 5-1. Emperor Jalvar broadcast his ultimatum across all frequencies. His voice was old and cold, like wind blowing through ancient bones. "People of Earth, you have something that belongs to us. The Void Sentinel you call Nova was our prisoner for 2 centuries. Return it to us, and we will withdraw. Refuse, and we will reduce your homeworld to dust. You have 1 hour to decide." On the bridge of the flagship Constellation, humanity's leaders debated what to do. Admiral Thornton wanted to fight, even though she knew they would probably lose. Some politicians wanted to negotiate, to offer Danny in exchange for peace. Others wanted to run, to evacuate what they could and abandon Earth to its fate. Danny stood in the corner, listening to them argue about his life, like it was a piece on a game board. Nova rested against his heart, calm and patient. "They're all afraid," Danny said quietly through their bond. "Fear is natural," Nova replied. "It is what beings do with their fear that matters." Danny thought about that. He thought about all the species that had encountered the Void Sentinels throughout history. They had all been afraid, and their fear had led them to hunt and kill until only Nova remained. Fear had nearly destroyed something beautiful and ancient. He would not let fear win today. "I need to speak to the Emperor," Danny announced. The arguing stopped. Every eye turned to him. Absolutely not, Admiral Thornton said. You're too valuable to risk. I'm not valuable at all, Danny replied. I'm the weakest student in the academy. I have no powers, no special abilities, nothing that makes me important. He paused. Except for one thing. Nova chose me. And the reason she chose me is the reason I have to do this. He turned to Commander Lawson, who had become something like a mentor in the weeks since the rescue. Sir, I need a shuttle. I need to go out there alone. Lawson studied him for a long moment. You know this could be a trap. The Emperor could kill you the moment you're in range. I know. And you're still going to do it. Someone has to. And it has to be me. Danny looked at the people around him. Nova has the power to destroy that entire fleet. She could end this war in seconds, burn their ships, scatter their atoms across the void. But if we do that, humanity becomes something terrible. We become destroyers, feared across the galaxy. We become exactly what the Kethvari were afraid we would become. He walked toward the door. There's another way, a harder way, but it's the right way. No one stopped him. 30 minutes later, Danny's shuttle floated in the empty space between the two fleets. Billions of eyes across both civilizations were watching through cameras and sensors. Whatever happened next, the whole galaxy would witness it. Emperor Jalvar agreed to speak with him directly. The ancient ruler's face appeared on Danny's screen, scaled and weathered by centuries of war. You are the host, Jalvar said. The one who carries the sentinel. My name is Danny Cole. Names are irrelevant. You are a vessel for destruction. Your species does not understand what you carry. The Void Sentinels destroyed 100 civilizations before we stopped them. They are cosmic predators, nightmares given form. And you have given one of them a reason to protect your people. Danny shook his head. You don't understand her at all. Nova isn't a destroyer. She was hunted and tortured and drained for 200 years, and she never fought back. Do you know why? Because she was tired of being afraid. Tired of being hated. Tired of a universe that saw her as a monster instead of a person. He leaned forward. I found her dying in a cargo hold. She was small and weak and alone. I could have reported her. I could have let the military destroy her. But I didn't. I saved her life because it was the right thing to do. And she bonded with me because in all her millions of years of existence, no one had ever shown her kindness without expecting something in return. Jalvar was silent. His ancient eyes, which had seen empires rise and fall, studied Danny with something that might have been curiosity. You expect me to believe that this creature of destruction chose you because you were kind. I expect you to believe it because it's true. Danny stood up in his shuttle, even though the Emperor could barely see him through the camera. Nova could destroy your fleet right now. She could kill you and every soldier under your command. She has that power, and she would use it to protect me. But I'm asking her not to. Why? Because I don't want to be the reason billions more die. I don't want humanity to be remembered as the species that unleashed cosmic horror on the galaxy. And I don't want Nova to spend another 1,000,000 years being feared and hated. Danny's voice was steady, even though his hands were shaking. So here's what I'm offering instead. Leave, turn your ships around, and go home. And in exchange, I promise you that Nova will never be used as a weapon against your people. And why should I believe you? Danny smiled sadly. Because I'm asking you to do something that I'm also doing. I'm asking you to trust someone you have every reason to fear. I'm asking you to choose peace when war would be easier. I'm asking you to be brave in a way that doesn't require any weapons at all. He spread his hands. This is what Nova taught me. The real power isn't in destruction. It's in choice. You can choose to be afraid, to attack, to continue a cycle of violence that has lasted for 10,000 years. Or you can choose something else. Something better. Nova emerged from Danny's chest then, but not as a warrior. She appeared in her small form, a gentle light no bigger than his palm. She floated in front of the camera, and Jalvar's eyes widened. Through Danny, she spoke. "Emperor, I remember your ancestors. I remember the war they waged against my kind. I remember the fear that drove them to hunt us across the galaxy." Her light pulsed softly. "I could hate you for what your people did. I could destroy you and feel justified in doing so. But I have learned something new from this human. I have learned that mercy is not weakness. It is the greatest strength there is." She floated back to Danny's heart and settled there, warm and peaceful. "The choice is yours, Emperor. War or peace, fear or trust. I will accept whatever you decide." The silence stretched across the void. Millions watched and waited. ZHAL single quotes. VOR was ancient. He had ruled his empire for 3 centuries. He had won wars that seemed impossible and survived betrayals that would have killed lesser beings. He understood power better than almost anyone in the galaxy. And yet, in that moment, he felt something he had not felt in a very long time. He felt afraid. Not of the Void Sentinel's power. He had expected that, prepared for it. No, he was afraid of the young human floating between the fleets, because Danny Cole held ultimate power and chose mercy. He could have demanded anything, threatened anything, taken anything. Instead, he had asked for peace. That kind of strength was more terrifying than any weapon. "Very well," Jalvar said finally. "We will withdraw. But know this, human. If your sentinel ever threatens my people, I will return. I will not be merciful." "I understand," Danny said. "And I give you my word. Nova will protect, but she will never attack. Not unless your people force her to." The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, beings watched in disbelief as the Cathvari armada began to turn away. 3,000 warships, the largest fleet ever assembled, retreating without firing a single shot. Danny sat in his shuttle, exhausted and relieved. Through the bond, he felt Nova's warmth, her pride, her love. "You did well," she told him. "Better than any being I have ever known." "I just did what you taught me," he replied. "I chose kindness, even when it was hard, even when it was scary, even when everyone expected me to choose something else." A month later, Danny returned to the academy, not as a weapon or a symbol, but as a student. He still had a lot to learn, still had simulations to pass and skills to develop. The bond with Nova had given him abilities, but it had not made him a soldier. That would take time and effort, like everything worthwhile. But things were different now. His classmates looked at him with respect instead of pity. His instructors pushed him to be better instead of writing him off. And when reporters asked him why the most powerful being in the galaxy had chosen the weakest student in the academy, Danny just smiled. "She didn't choose the weakest," he said. "She chose the one who was kind when it cost him nothing to be cruel. That's not weakness. That's what being human is supposed to mean." Nova pulsed warmly against his heart, and Danny Cole walked into his future with his head held high. The war with the Cathvari was not truly over. There would be challenges ahead, political struggles, and moments when peace seemed impossible. But for the first time in 30 years, there was hope. And it had all started with one act of kindness in a dark cargo hold. When a boy with no power decided to save a dying light, that was the story the galaxy would remember. Not of destruction, not of war, but of mercy. Of a human who proved that the greatest strength was not the ability to destroy, but the courage to love something that everyone else feared. And in the end, that made all the difference.